Senator Tillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Judge Jackson, as Senator Booker was providing his closing comments, I could only think, and they were very powerful, that if you like his, how much you're going to like mine on the subject of intellectual property. But before I do that, I know you've been spending a lot of time here. Do you have much experience in matters of copyright protection, patent protection?
Senator, I mentioned earlier that I did a trademark case.
Yeah.
Not
By
that.
the way, I looked up the menu. It looks like a really good menu.
I think it's a good restaurant. Yeah. They had a lot of evidence to that effect.
I haven't done a lot of food or restaurant trademark work, but when I came to judiciary, fortunately, the former chair and the current chair indulged us in reinstituting the intellectual property subcommittee. And I love that committee because you really have to work hard to be partisan in it. And in fact, it's not partisan. I worked very well with, as the chair, with Senator Coons, and done very well with Senator Leahy and Senator Rono, and working together on things that I think are really important, because I think one of the things that make our country great is the Founding Fathers got it right on understanding the value of intellectual property and how it could catapult us into the innovation powerhouse that we are today. So I may ask you a few questions about it, but I'm not going to dig too deeply. I do want to go back to maybe getting a suggestion from you. I thought, I told you, I don't even pretend to be an attorney, but I am about 30 years into technology. As a matter of fact, I spent 2 years in Boston at Wang Laboratories, and it was no coincidence, having been born and raised in Florida, that I moved one September because I couldn't bear another winter. But I've been in the technical field. I was working on IP, or Internet Protocol, before anybody knew what Internet Protocol was back in the early 90s. And I do think that we should go away and understand the threat. If you've seen the multiple of illicit activities, and for the purposes of this discussion, child pornography now, imagine what it's going to be like 5 years from now. I was talking with someone in the hallway. They're taking a playbook from drug kingpins, the creators and the aggregators and the distributors are using technology, I think in some cases, to reach out to people and incent them to go to these websites, to infect their computers, to download thousands potentially from a single click. I think that we have to examine these criminal enterprises and put law enforcement resources into cutting the heads off of these people, figuratively speaking. And one of the ways you do that is to provide, I think, more ways to go about prosecute, more technology that we need to cut down the supply. But we still have to deal with the demand. And that's another area where these criminal organizations and others are taking advantage. And, you know, today, if you think about technology 10 years ago, it was a little odd, at least 15 years ago, to see a child. I've got two granddaughters. One is 4 years old, one is 2 years old. They're technologically savvy. As a matter of fact, I love talking to them on the phone, but even my 2-year-old knows how to deal with the filters to make me look like I've got rabbit ears and everything. They're technologically savvy. There's a real danger there that these horrible people, and I genuinely believe that you think they're horrible people, are going, they're going to infect and destroy a lot of lives. And so I don't know, is it with the Sentencing Commission? How would you, and incidentally, this is a toxic subject in Congress, because if you start talking about better understanding those, most people are going to run away from it. But we do it at the expense of destroying a lot of victims' lives. So I don't unless you have ideas off the top of your head, I'm trying to get an idea of how we can make people understand. Maybe we could even have a discussion to say that the penalties today are the floor to begin the discussion, just to simply eliminate people from making this so toxic that we don't better understand it and get ahead of it. But how can we even start having an intelligent discussion and a productive discussion where Congress is clearly going to need to act to do what I think everybody in this room wants to do, is just erase it from the planet of the earth, or at least make a lot of progress, because quite honestly, it has exponentially grown, and there are exponentially more victims today than there were even 10 years ago. Any ideas?
Thank you, Senator. I actually don't. I haven't been working on or looking at or dealing with sentencing policy for a long time now. In my work as a judge, we're looking at individual cases, not systems or crime organizations and policies related to them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's something that we should take seriously, and after we cool the temperatures and have people have legitimate concerns about some of the rulings, I think that we have to clear up some of the complexity and recognize that Congress is a part of the solution. Okay, now on the weighty subject of intellectual property, are you familiar with copyright preemption under Section 301A?
No, I haven't worked with that.
Okay. I wouldn't have expected you to necessarily, but, and I won't get into patent questions. We've got a lot of work that I think ultimately is going to require us getting rid of the shambles of jurisprudence that we have. It's a very complicated field. We've got a lot of mixed signals and current jurisprudence, and my committee's working on that. So it may be something that ultimately works its way up to you all if you're confirmed. But I'm not going to take a lot of time, particularly because the hour is late and I intend to yield back some of my time. I do want to go back because I felt like this morning when I went through some of my comments, I mentioned law enforcement. I talked about a couple of your decisions that gave me pause, mainly, excuse me, because, law enforcement's under attack. Law enforcement needs to be held to a high standard. I've been involved in this for nearly 22 years, making sure that when I was a town councilman, that we did something audacious and spend a lot of money in getting our law enforcement officers in a small town of only 20,000 people, CALEA certified. That's a national certification to make sure that they understand how to de-escalate, get engaged in the community, and reduce crime. And it worked. But now there are some people that think it's fashionable to attack the police and to defund the police. And quite honestly, there's increasing data that suggests the communities that are loudest about that are becoming the least safe. So I want to ask, you mentioned several times, I think yesterday and more today, about your methodology. So is the United States versus Jenkins fresh in your mind, or roughly fresh in your mind? Criminal pleaded guilty to assaulting a law officer. It was his third conviction. In assaulting a law enforcement officer. The government recommended 30 months. The defense recommended 21 months, and you decided to go with an 18-month sentence. So I was trying to, do you recall?
I don't recall. I would want to look at the records and see the probation office's recommendation as well.
Okay. And that, again, is something I wouldn't have access to. So I'm just trying to figure out what the mitigating circumstances were, and there were other ones, and unless you immediately recall it, I'm not going to ask you to go into details. The other one was United States versus Weeks. Similar situation. There was a 24-month request from the government for the conviction on assaulting an officer, and you gave them 12 months. And does that ring a bell, United States versus Weeks?
I think Weeks had a number of different appearances, and there were different aspects to his case, but I'd have to look at the whole file to recall.
That I just feel like again, because I know that you've rendered some 100 sentences over a period of time. I wouldn't expect you, but it is an area that we'll submit it as a question for the record so that maybe you can refresh your memory and try to get back on that, because it's something that I, for one, think that we need to place a priority on. We've got so many law enforcement agencies across the country now, that are having a hard time recruiting people and having a hard time retaining people. A lot of people are retiring. And, you know, I know not every police officer is an angel. I was talking with somebody in my office who was talking about her brother. She had a lot of confidence in him. She was here to talk to me about police reforms. And I actually believe that the vast majority of police officers, like your brother and your family members, were good people. And a part of what we have to do is just make sure that when we have these assaults, which are increasing, that we have just punishment, because we need to do that for the protection not only of the law enforcement officers, but the communities they serve. So, you know, and I'm going to yield back time because I know we've got two other people talking. And, you know, I thought you've done a great job over the last 2 days. I've tried to be here. I had an emergency and had to leave for about an hour and a half, but I tried to be here for a business emergency. But I thought that you presented yourself well, and there was a lot of pressure. And that demonstrates a certain temperament or poise. I can't imagine what's going on inside your head, but at least overtly, you did very well, and you should be proud of that. It's not an easy thing. It's very easy up here to feel comfortable, right? Because there's 22 of us, and it's not like you can really come at us. So you have an arm tied behind your back, and I'm sure that there were a number of things you'd like to say, but time didn't allow. But, you know, I just want to commend you, your family, your daughter, who has been glowing every time you talk, and I appreciate your service. Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Senator
Thank you,
Tillis.
Senator.
Senator Ossoff, you started the day for us.